What's going on? What are we
Not
talking
much.
about?
We're talking about your broken foot today. Why Adrian broke his foot. You're at the beach in the water.
No,
How do you break your foot in the water?
I didn't break my foot in the water. I had to move houses, so I pretended to break my foot so I didn't have to do anything.
That's a good way of getting out of it. Smart. No, how did you break your foot so people know?
Not that people would be interested, but if you are interested, it was in. I actually just by stepping back and it rolled under and it popped under. It was when I was sparring, not fighting, in kickboxing. And I'm in this thing for 8 weeks and I cannot move and it's been horrendous. And I had to move over this weekend. It was horrible. So I did it last Saturday. Today's, Tuesday?
Yep, not good.
Very, very horrible. Don't have to get surgery, which is good, but 8 weeks and 3 months until I'm running and everything.
No good.
That's okay.
Well, anyway, the show must go on.
The show will go on. Couldn't go on last week. I wasn't able to do it last week because I was in too much pain.
We had a special guest on, so lucky for that. So today, what are we going to talk about? Today we're
Tell me.
talking about the difference between a 400K property, 500K, 600K, 700K properties, what that gets you in the market. I think we get commonly asked
All the time.
and everyone always wants something cheaper because they feel like they're getting a bargain.
Yep.
Times have changed. But I guess if someone's listening to this, they're trying to get into the market for the first time, or they've already purchased a property but they want to get back into the market, this podcast for you. Listen to the very end because you're gonna want to hear what we're gonna say here because I think it's the most important to understand what these assets are.
Yep.
Especially in today's market, we're buying all over the country, buying in capital cities, we're buying in regional towns. People think in regional towns you can always get something cheaper, but today things have changed. So
This is going to be actually a good podcast. I think actually for the majority of our clients, especially our repeat clients, the clients that have purchased properties in 21, 22, 23, even 24, and they come back and they go, I want that same asset. This is going to be I think this will be a good podcast for you guys and obviously, everyone else to listen. But our repeat clients or people there who are thinking about jumping on and actually getting an understanding of what you can buy. So let's rock and roll. This is a very, very, very big podcast though. We get a lot of, every single week there is someone saying, I don't value that asset or I was expecting to have something different or hey, I saw something pop up on your Instagram 3 years ago. I want something like that. It's property. It's not possible. We wouldn't have a business if our properties didn't grow. So obviously 6 months is a really long time in property when properties are moving by 20%. But let's rock and roll. Let's get into it.
yeah, so I guess back in when we started 2020, 2021, we were buying a lot. We were buying a lot of houses around 250, 300K. Nothing was really at 400K. If you did buy something at 400K, those properties today are probably worth around 600 to 700K.
If not more. Yeah.
And then, of course, the properties that we're buying around that 250, 300K today, they're worth probably close to 600, if not somewhere at 600 or just nearly over as well. So the market has changed. Back then, buying a lot of Queensland, WA, South Australia.
Yep.
I bought a house in Adelaide for 240 grand. It was like crazy.
Thomas.
Yeah, just crazy time. So, so what I want to kind of explain is now those markets have changed, and during that time you had all those areas very cheap, and now they've all risen up to 600 plus. Some places, some of those suburbs as well have houses up to $1 million as well. But what I'm trying to explain is now those houses are worth 600 plus K, and they're really, really clean assets when we're buying at 300K. Today we're buying at 400, 500, 600 plus, and for what you see back then to now is very different because where I'm trying to educate and get people to understand here is back then in Queensland and WA and those regions there, the prices were so low compared to say Victoria or New South Wales. When New South Wales and Victoria and those regional towns that we are in currently today, the medium house prices are well above $300,000 already at that point. So people come in and the house is a lot older. The regions can be a lot older as well. And so the characteristic and the amenities on the house as well, it can be very different. So I'm trying to paint a picture here of why things have changed. And of course, they're inflating. And I will talk about some of the properties we've bought in the past and now and what they look like. And we're going to get some slideshows if you are watching or listening on a podcast app, you're probably not going to see it. But if you're on the YouTube channel, you'll see the visuals because I'm going to get images of current properties that we've purchased.
That'd be nice.
Back in the day, for 300 grand, 200 grand, and what they're valued today. And I'm going to get other properties as well. We purchased around that 400 plus around the same time. That some of them are worth 700K plus.
Awesome.
And what they look like. And then, of course, just so we can put, an image to someone's eye to see, hey, this is what you're going to get for X amount. Does that make sense?
Yep, it makes perfect sense. So there's two reasons why we are deciding to do this particular podcast. One, it's because it's probably one of the most commonly asked questions that we get from a client perspective. We're talking about from a service level. Obviously, the second piece of it is to actually educate, to actually understand. My question and what I'll be questioning to you throughout is there markets that have the same fundamentals, the same security, the same stability that you can still buy today for $300,000, or you actually don't believe that is a possibility anymore?
There is, in some of the areas, you can buy a house for 300. The problem is you're not going to get a house that's just like, buy, set and forget. You're going to need some elbow grease, serious work to get that thing up to scratch, which I think is a very good strategy, and I've kind of added it in here because someone starting out, it's their first time investing. I don't recommend doing something like that because it can be super overwhelming. Having to get trades, no loss of rent as well. You might have to take 2-3 months to fix up this property.
Yep,
and you need capital. So for someone
pockets
starting out, that's probably not the best place to start. But for someone that's got a few properties under their belt, they've got capital, got equity, they got they're I guess more, I'll say emotionally intelligent when it comes to investing because you need to have that mindset. I think the mindset's the most important part. Then that can be a great investment for you.
Yep.
Okay. But if you take that on early on, I recommend you can. I wouldn't say I recommend, but I think you can take that on early on in your phase as well. But not everyone has that. So it's just being aware of you're going to go through a bit of emotional roller coaster at 300K right now.
Yep.
And they do have the stability in those markets because in the markets we're buying in, you can buy a house at 500, 600, 400, 300 in some of these markets. But when you're buying a house at 300 or even 400 there, that's not going to be the prettiest house on the street.
Yeah. So understanding that it could go with a couple of months of no rent, because obviously you're doing the renovation. Doesn't need to be a couple of months, but I mean, many clients that run renovations, and yeah, you're exactly right. The ones that get stressed are the ones that are not necessarily, they're not investors, right? I shouldn't say they're not investors. They are investors because they're investing in property. But yeah, being extremely stressed about this stuff, there's something very, very different. My house could almost blow up. I think your house could almost blow up and still be like, okay, cool, let's get to solution mode. Because we've bought 10 properties, our own properties plus. Okay, let's keep it rolling. Roll it out, man.
So I want to go back to when we're buying in Rockhampton, Bundaberg, Toowoomba. I've got properties here. So when we bought in Rockhampton, we're buying around 250 to say 350 in between there, houses. Didn't need anything to do with them. Didn't need any work to be done to them. 7% yield plus, like amazing.
Madness.
Properties cash flow positive from day one. So those properties were worth 600 plus, and their yields are probably like close to 10% for our clients, which is awesome. At the same time, you could buy a house for 600 grand in Rockhampton. And that property today, and I've got a property here, and I'll put a picture up if you're watching. That property today is worth nearly $1 million, 970. So I've got the same property that's sold in the same area, same suburb, but just a nicer house, bigger land, got a pool, all the things that you want.
Caboodles.
Yes. Property grew 56% in 4 years. The property we bought that I'm going off that we bought in the same area, which was Anthony's property, I think it's done over 100%. So from a percentage point of view, Anthony's property has grown more, 100% versus the one that's grown 56%. That was at 600 in the same suburb, same year.
Gotcha.
Okay. You can then fight and go, but the 600K property has more equity because, of course, or because of the value of the property, it's grown 56%, but it was valued at 600.
Yep.
Which, of course, that's a fair point and statement. But what I'm trying to show here, the fundamentals still work the same for a higher value property versus a lower value property. The lower value property will grow more because it needs to catch up to the higher value properties, but you can increase that value even more with renovations. If it's just natural appreciation, it can grow quite significantly, like Anthony's has. But if Anthony puts some work into it as well, like, of course, you know, a pool or an extra bedroom, bathroom, an extension, that will then take that value up. You can get, you know, close to $1 million as well.
Yep.
Okay.
And there's going to be so there's going to be so many, I won't say holes in what you're saying. There's going to be so many examples of, well, hang on, let's talk about Bundaberg. I bought a property in Bundaberg, 400, a duplex. It's now worth 900 plus, right? So it's almost at that $1 million mark, and it's at a 13% rental yield, right? So there are going to be examples whereby what you're saying is correct and then not correct, but I understand what you are saying. Ultimately, at the same time, if you buy the right property, in the right location, at the right time, it is going to skyrocket.
Correct.
Whether it's 600, whether it's 400, whether it's 300. So just focus on that as opposed to, and then obviously if you're open to renovations, sure, you can go for a cheaper asset. Okay, cool. I'm with you. Let's keep it rolling.
So for a 400K property today, okay, we'll start with 400. Everyone wants to start at the lower end. The bathroom is not going to be in great condition. It's not going to be, the photos look deceiving. You might look and go, oh, that looks great. That looks awesome. There's a bit more to it. So once you get the pest and building report and you get it all back, it can have high moisture reading in the bathroom, meaning that the waterproofing has let go, okay, and they're starting to get moisture in the walls. The property might be okay now, but maybe 2, 3, 4 years down the track, it's going to need a renovation or even sooner, okay? Yep. I've purchased a property that had water issues and I got a discount on that property, and then within 18 months, I had to do a full bathroom reno.
Cost you?
Oh, it cost me nearly 10 grand to do that.
But you got
I got that off the price.
Gotcha.
But okay. I knew going into it that this property had an issue.
Yep.
And I took that. Sometimes it can be, you know, you can hold that property for another couple of years after that and it still be fine. So that there is something that a 400K property, that's what one of the biggest issues you're going to have is with the bathroom, okay? And there's going to be roofing as well that you need to check as well.
And why is that? Just because of older assets?
Assets that it's wear and tear, and you're buying in probably an area that, you know, the median house price might be 500, 600K, and you're getting this property at 400, and it's 400 for a reason.
Gotcha.
It can be as well just a plain Jane property, like a 3x1x1, maybe not even a car garage, maybe just like a carport. So, of course, every market's completely different, but the condition of the property internally is going to be very different to a 400 versus 500.
Okay.
Roof, gutters, I would say roof can be fine depending on where it is. I remember in Rockhampton in Queensland, there was a storm, so a lot of the roofs were hail damage, so that was a big issue. But I also recall in a lot of these areas that you've got the gutters that will start to pack up. You know, you've got a property that's 40 years old, 50 years old, never been done. We've got new gutters. You're going to get new gutters that need to be done. So these are things to think about when you're going for these 400K properties. And it's 400K now, perfect, small deposit. But once you get the property and then there starts to be issues, then you start to know about it and you're like, oh my God. And it can be quite overwhelming. And that's where I think starting off can be a property that can make you or break you and say, hey, I'm not going to invest any more property. It's not for me.
Yeah, it's happening right now where there's an asset that was purchased for cheaper and there's issues with it. A client came to us the other day with that specifically, not expecting these things to pop up. And I mean, we spoke about it at the seminar, right? Clients that have made $150,000 in a year, but a $4,000 maintenance fix, that will stop you from continuing to buy properties. So I think you said it really well at the start. The mindset going into a 400, and I think you're even going to say the next one, $500,000 asset, it needs to be different from going into a brand new asset, or not even a brand new asset, just an asset that you know is not going to have a lot of maintenance work. You need to be going into this expecting that there's going to be fixes over the years. You have to. Maybe back in the day, maybe 2021, 2022, 2023 even, maybe not. You're going to buy a cleaner asset. It's going to cost you $400K. Today's a very, very different market, at least where we're looking.
Yep,
at least where we're looking.
Definitely.
You can go to Darwin. You can go and buy 400K assets. I'm still sure now, relatively new.
Yeah, relatively new, probably even a little bit more depending on the condition and the size of it. But yeah, you might be able to get something there for 400K, maybe even more. I think the market's moving pretty quick at the moment.
The market is moving, yeah. Okay.
But so yeah, bathroom, roof, the lookout for, of course, the house might be timber exterior, not brick.
Yep.
You might be able to get a brick home, fantastic, very plain, simple property, 3x1x1, maybe just a 600 square meter block, maybe even smaller sometimes. It might be even a 2-bedroom house. So we're talking about houses only, and this, of course, standard block size, and landscaping is going to be just bare minimum. Might be just grass at the front, grass at the back, nothing there, no garden beds, nothing that looks fancy, nice. So that's what you'll probably get around that, 400, even high 300s as well.
Yep.
Okay.
And still get good growth. You're not talking about the growth. You're not talking about the fundamentals. You're just purely talking about the asset.
Yes, just the asset. The growth, of course, you buy in the same market that's done 50% in that year. Of course, not every property is going to grow 50%, of course, because we know there's a big variance, like I showed before.
Yep.
Anthony's property's grown 100%. The other one grew 56%.
Yep.
Okay. But you're still going to get solid growth.
Of course.
Okay. 500K, you take it up 100K. What you're going to expect is probably, of course, a more cleaner property. Landscaping is going to be more on point. Okay, the bathroom is going to be in a little bit better condition. You can still have issues with bathrooms. Bathrooms are always renowned with property. It's not like every bathroom is going to be fine. I've had it at 600K properties as well. So bathroom is still on the cards there, but you're going to be weighing towards more. It's probably had a renovation in the last 5-10 years maybe.
Gotcha.
And it's still a little bit better condition. Kitchen will be in better condition. You might start to step up to a 4-bedroom house as well, or just a bigger type of house. Might be still a 3-bedroom, but maybe a rumpus room, things like that. Gutters and stuff like that can still be on the cards because gutters are, they always accumulate rust and water and moisture. Internally, the house is going to look a little bit better as well internally. So more fresh paints, just maybe fixtures and fittings. And once again, I've got photos up there as well. Some of these bathrooms and kitchens might have had a renovation, like I said, 5 to 6 years ago, and still look really, really good. So, which is great. So pest and building reports are very important here. And this is where, when you buy every single property, to go over the report and understand what you're looking at. Some people like to do it themselves. I know we've got a service where we secure the property for the client and then we leave it with the client to do the pest and building, negotiate on the pest and building, organise their own property managers, etc. And then they always come back to us and they're asking us questions about how to go about the pest and building, which is probably the most important part when you buy a property.
One of. Yeah. Plumbing as well. Electrical inspection. Like there's not just building and pest. Yeah, for sure.
There's many of times that we've gone through, our own properties that we've purchased and there's been issues and the guys had to, negotiate, get extra money off, or, the vendor tries to fight and go, nah, you take it or leave it. They know the market's hot. And if the market's hot, it's like this, they put you back into the corner. Do you really want the property? If you don't want it, I'll go back to market and I'll probably get another 10 or 20 grand now. So, and then, so if you've got a professional helping you, fantastic. If you try to do it yourself, this is where, of course,
can get unstuck, for sure.
Unstuck. And of course, the experience does help.
Yep. Okay. Of course.
So then you go to 600K. Today, 600K gets you a lot of house that's probably been, fully renovated. So, maybe it might be still not fully renovated. It might be, renovated maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Bathrooms in great condition, kitchens in great condition. It's probably got it's got really good landscaping as well. You got that extra bedroom as well. That most likely you're going to get that 4-bedroom. Mm-hmm. Sometimes even that extra bathroom as well with that. Once again, photos are there. There's a couple of properties I've got here that you'll see some photos. There's been some great renovations.
Let's have a little squeeze.
Yeah, but I don't know if people are going to see this on the camera.
I'm going to see it. I'm interested. Yeah, it's nice.
So it's nice.
At home. It's got that owner-occupier.
Yeah, it's got a bit of character as well.
Yep.
That's where, I think you spend that little bit more, you get a bit more character. So the character is quite important for resale. So if you just buy a plain Jane property like those, you just buy a rectangle home that's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, maybe a carport, and that's it. It's just plain simple, no landscaping or anything. Great, it'll grow in value, fantastic. But when you go to resell it, it's not appealing. So when you pay that 500-600 grand price, or even if you go to 700 grand, it's very owner-occupier driven. So when you decide to sell that, because everyone's going to sell eventually, okay? No one will hold it for life. When you go to sell, you're going to target that market that's going to pay for that property. Investors aren't going to pay for a property like that. And if you look at the stats in Australia, 30% of people rent in Australia, the other 70% own homes. So people that are going out to open homes, 70% of them are owner-occupiers. They're going to push up prices. Yep. So for 600K, you're going to get something that's neat, tidy. And that there, I think, appeals, 5 to 600K does appeal to the first-time investor, okay? And I'm talking houses here only. If we want to talk units and townhouses, that's another topic. But as well, someone that is, maybe they've got a fair few properties under their belt now and they don't want the headache and maybe they're coming into their 50s and 60s, that a property like this can be really nice for them as well. Yep. Okay, so age does come into play also.
You're in the market. Which house are you going for?
Myself?
You personally.
So at the moment, I'm getting ready to go again.
Yeah.
I've got about 150K of equity I'm going to be using. Okay. So I'm going to probably look around that 450, 500K price point, but put money into a reno.
Okay. Okay, cool. So specifically, you're going into that price point, 450 to 500. Why not any lower? Why are you not going for 350 to 400?
350 is probably going to be very not achievable in these markets at all.
Okay.
For a house.
Yeah.
If I want to go for like a townhouse or like a unit, a semi-duplex or something like that, of course, but I don't want to go for that. I want something land component. And I'm going to put some money into it. So this is probably not going to have a tenant in there. So I'm going to put some work involved into that, probably getting up the speed, up the scratch, make sure it's, tenant proof as well. And that's what I'm trying to chase as well. So it's something that's still got a bit of character, of course, but more internally if it needs, flooring, bathroom and things like that, I'm going to be looking to target something like that.
So nothing major, not...
Oh, bathroom. I'm open to doing bathroom renos.
You're not smashing down walls.
No,
Okay.
nothing structural.
Okay.
But if I'll do a bathroom or a kitchen upgrade.
Yeah.
I'll do some flooring. I don't mind. It doesn't. I've got the equity to, back me. That's fine. I've got some cash as well there. So that's what I'm going to do.
And you'll fly there yourself, and you'll go do that yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna take my toolbox.
Yep.
Bob the builder's gonna come with me.
Yep.
No, of course not. I'm gonna.
So how are you going to do it? How are you going to do that?
My buyer's agent.
Sorry?
My buyer's agent.
Yeah, but how will you do it? Like, what will happen? He'll organise the trades. How does it actually happen? Being genuine, so you can explain to the listener,
So
what does the actual process of that actually look like?
So I'm going to get one of the guys in the team are going to source the property, purchase the property.
Yep.
From that point, I'm going to try and look at, let's see if we can put a little bit of a longer settlement period and then just get our trades in order.
Okay.
When we get our trades in order, we quotes, we call time frames, when they can come in once we settle.
Yep.
They're going to come in and then do the works once we settle and line it all up. So just a nice, smooth, easy procedure, giving us enough time. Normally we can get a little bit of a longer settlement if we can get like 60 days. That will help just to get enough time to organise everything. And you probably will because it's an older property and it needs a bit of work and it's, they might be open to that. Hopefully, if not, we might have to do 50 days or if it's have to do 40 days, whatever it may be. And then once we settle, they're ready to rock and roll. And then from there, my property manager will be managing that whole process. Of course, I'll be in the loop as well, understanding where that communication is of where things are at. I guess once that's all done, on the market for rent and away we go.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, so that's at a renovation. Why wouldn't you go for a 600K asset or a 700K asset?
Because the renovation strategy works the best, in my opinion.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because you're forcing the property to appreciate straight away from day one and you're forcing the rents to go up. Like I said, it's not for everyone, but it's the quickest way to get growth. And I'm in that position now that I can start manufacturing that. And I want to do that because I want to, my goal is to try and get that yield up as much as I can because I'm getting to a point now, this is my 9th property and then I'm getting another one, which is going to be 10. The more I keep going, I don't want to be too negative in my cash flow. So if I can keep doing work to drop that yield down, drop the cash flow down, increase my yield, that means I can accumulate more properties and keep going and going and going. So I'm very trying to be more strategic now. And plus, if I can find something with a nice empty block at the back that's got access, I'm going to be looking one day down the track to turn that into a granny flat as well.
Gotcha.
So that's part of that whole process. It's going to be quite difficult. If I need to go up to 500K, I'm going to go up to 500K to look at that. And even if I need to put some money into that property because it's going to be older, but I've bought something for bigger land component, and this is where comparing apples with apples, of course. We've talked about 500K, it'll get you something nice, neat, nothing to do, smaller block of land, but I'm looking if I can get something, a lot bigger at a granny flat as well. So that's where my budget is going to be. I'm very open to, I can fluctuate that budget as well.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. So to the person listening, to the clients that will watch this, you said something very, very important. It was a number that you said. You said, this is my 9th property. So you have full expectation going into this. So the property's going to be vacant. You're going to have to get some elbow grease in there, not you, but you're going to have to organise the trades. You're going to have to be comfortable with the property being vacant for a couple of months. You understand that. You've already mapped that out. If you are not comfortable as a client, as a person listening to this, if you're not comfortable with those things, you then have to go, okay, well, my only option or, my option if I'm in a stable market that, and also, a decent asset that's not going to cause me any issues, you have to go to that 600. That's what we're hearing, right?
Correct.
Cool.
Correct.
Awesome.
And lastly, I think we'll touch on a 700K property. You're going to get a property that's probably in great condition. It might be 10 years old. It might be 40, 50 years old, but it's had a full reno. Fixture and fittings are, fantastic. Nothing to do with the property. You might get a property for pool. Landscaping's on point as well. So it's got character. It's got, it looks really nice and pretty. Roof condition and gutters and all that sort of stuff is pretty sweet and sound as well. And
it's a beautiful home.
You get a beautiful home. You get a nice piece of land and home with that. And I think we just purchased something recently for a client that ticks all the boxes, and it's that really owner-occupier appeal. But I think it's a 5-bedroom home.
And they wanted that, right? They came in, they said, we want the best home. We want to hold it for a really long time. And we just want a home that we would almost live in, which I've got questions on that, but that's what they wanted. And
look, this property here will do very well. It's in the same market that we're buying, where you can buy 500-600K properties as well, but just that next step above. And look, this property will do well long term. I have no doubt it will, and it's just going to,
of course,
interest rates going down the track, it will actually probably grow a little bit more as well, because it opens up more doors to first home buyers in that area as well, or even just not people upgrading homes. And it's in a really, really nice pocket as well. So
what's the yield on a 700K versus, let's talk about the asset that you're going to buy?
This one here, so we're in a big regional town. That was about 4%, low 4s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Extremely different.
But still quite good. Like if you go and get if you start going to a capital city, 700K property these days, can probably pick something up in Victoria, in Melbourne. The yields will probably be a lot less.
3.5? Yeah,
probably 3.5, probably high 3s, because the problem is there's so many properties on the market, and it's a different rental market compared to this other area. So the other area that we're buying in, the vacancy rates are a lot lower, and the supply of rentals are a lot lower as well. So you got more push up on the rents there, so which is great.
Yep.
I would argue as well that in regional towns the rents are much stronger. I believe sometimes, not all the time, but it can be very strong for that anything 700K or lower. Can be quite healthy with the rental yields in these areas.
Yep. Okay. Rent on that is going to be around that 4%. Let's talk about, just to go back, the asset that you're thinking about buying and then adding renovation. I know you can't give me an exact answer, but in your experience, what are the yields roughly that you're going to see at that 500K price point?
So 500, you're probably going to get, once again, probably a 4 to 4.5%, depending on the condition of the property internally. If I can get that to a 5.5, I'll be happy.
After the reno?
After the reno, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. If I can do more, of course, even better. But of course, we'll just wait and see what we can find as well.
Yep.
So
something, again, way up. I'm trying to ask these questions from the viewer's mind. It's something to weigh up. Obviously, a 700K asset, clean, beautiful. There is downside to every upside. Just the way the world works. I can't help that. Yields are going to be lower. So you need to expect, again, have deeper pockets. Property might cost you, if you're using equity, property is going to cost you at a 4% rental yield 20 grand, 18 grand a year. Whereas cheaper asset, yields are generally much stronger, especially if you add a renovation to that.
Once you start, see, this is the thing, people go cheaper, it's going to cost me less, but then when you start factoring in 3, 4, 5 grand maintenance, then it works out to be the same as a more expensive property.
Yes.
So,
but just something to consider.
Yeah,
just something to consider.
And as well, we're talking about houses only. If you want to go and step it up to 600K, 700K and go for a duplex, that's achievable as well in these areas too. Higher rental yields, which is fantastic, meaning that property will cost you less to hold, which is awesome. Still great growth component as well. But today,
generally speaking, not as good. Again, there's always a pro and con with everything, but
of course,
generally speaking, not as strong as what a house would.
Yeah, but I just wanted to, today we just want to talk about houses. And then, of course, there's different strategies into townhouses, and we buy semi-duplexes and units, which we have purchased for clients. We don't avoid it. It depends on each client's circumstances. There's some clients that have a strict budget, can only spend, 300 grand, 350. Fantastic. Okay, what are we going to look at? Okay, and there's been some great assets that we've bought at 300 or 350 that have been semi-duplexes or units that have that bit of land. But notice that you've got that scarcity in these regional towns where you come to Melbourne or Sydney or these, capital cities, there's an oversupply of apartments. We know that. There's always been more and more apartments getting built, and there's a lot of units. So when you look at the percentage, sometimes there's a 20, 30, 40% of apartments/units in an area. So there's not much scarcity. When you buy in some of these regional towns, when you go for a unit or semi-duplex, be like 5% of those properties are semi-duplexes or units. So you do have a bit of growth there and scarce. And so we've done really, really well with some of our clients. Some of our clients' properties have grown like 20, 30% since we've purchased, and they've been units. And so we've purchased specifically because one, budget, of course, funds, borrowing capacity. And I've got a podcast that I want to do with property strategist Anu, who was on last week. We've got a strategy that we've been building out on when it comes to just doing a unit strategy.
Just buy units.
Just buying units.
Okay.
More of a different strategy where it's more of cash flow. Yes, you get equity, but it's a little bit different of a strategy where you're not too reliant on having to hold the property yourself because it's higher rental yields. Growth is not as strong as a house, of course, but you do get that growth at the beginning. And then what you're looking at is rinsing and repeating, using that equity, getting the number two, go again. And what happens is your cash flow is going to be really, really positive in a way where it's not going to be too reliant on yourself holding those properties.
Yep. Okay. Interesting. I'll be keen to see that one.
So that will be coming out shortly.
So just, again, a question on that. So you've got a 300K budget, or 350, let's call it, today, but you haven't got deep pockets. You've got an $80,000 deposit or something like that. You haven't got ability to go and do what you're going to do, which is taking out equity and doing a renovation. You would still suggest in today's market, go and get into into a unit as opposed to waiting a year to save up more of a deposit?
But yes, depending on the person's circumstances, their age, because I think that's very important, and where you're going to buy. That's the most important part, because it's not going to be, when you're buying units, I don't just buy in every single market that we're buying in. I'll be very specific with it. So just being more, specific with where you're going to be buying that unit, and they're not making sure it's just not the unit that you're purchasing isn't the same as every other unit on the market there.
Yeah,
so
not making the same mistake that I made and bought one out of 36 and it's all the exact same.
Exactly the same.
Gotcha.
You might have a little courtyard at the back or a little front yard at the front. There's ones that we purchased that was 90 square meters of unit. Like that's a big little unit.
One of three, I believe. There was just one of three.
So
it's a beautiful place.
So you get something like that. It's got a different vibe and it's got a bit of land to it as well.
That was Ante? Ante bought that asset?
No, I think it was another client.
Nick?
Might be Nick. Yeah.
Anyway, it's had awesome growth.
Yeah.
The both of those assets have done really, really well.
That was in Mackay, that one we purchased. So yeah, it was a good asset. So that's comparing apples with apples is very important when you're going to go down that route.
Gotcha.
And so I do recommend, if you're going to go down the route and you've got a budget of 300 grand, yes, that can be an awesome asset, an awesome strategy. It works very well. The housing market and the growth and the fundamentals and the research is sacking that this market's going to boom, the unit will do well as well.
Yep. Love it. Awesome. To summarize, tell me, from go to woe, from the start of the podcast, I know you can't answer specifically for clients, but just to summarize every single point that you've kind of gone through, if you could.
So we've talked about 4, 5, 6, 700K property. Which one's right for you? 400K, of course, once again, needs a bit of work, bathroom, roof, conditions, not going to be 100%, landscaping. This could be good for someone that has probably got a couple of properties under their belt, got a bit of capital, can go into that with their mental fortitude to say, hey, this property needs a bit of work, but I'm going to do some work to it.
The mindset.
500K is probably 5 to 600K in between that point there. Okay, those two properties at 5, 600K. That's good for the first time investors, I do believe, that do have a bit of capital, do have a big borrowing capacity, first time investing, or if not, they've already got one or two under their belt, but they want something stress-free. You go down that route as well.
Yep.
Okay. And then,
sorry, I'll preface it. Stress-free is never stress-free. Don't stress-free. There's always going to be stresses because you're investing. There's always going to be risk. There's always going to be maintenance. So there's still going to be something, not as much as the 400K asset that needs to be gutted.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes I think about myself too much. I'm like,
that's fine. That's fine.
For me, it's stress-free, but correct, 100%. And then, of course, 700 plus is for that investor that's looking for something very niche, something very scarce, buy, set, forget, great condition, etc.
Yep.
Okay, which I don't think I recommend for someone that's starting off their journey that, maybe has 100, 150 grand in savings. I probably wouldn't recommend going down that route because you're just going to put a lot of money into that property. So, you're probably going to aim for that 500, 600K price point.
Yep.
Okay.
It would be someone with a much, much bigger borrowing capacity. I just bought an $870,000 property. Beautiful, beautiful home. The nicest home I've ever bought. Very, very big borrowing capacity. Massive. I had $280,000 worth of equity. I had the ability to do that. To go down that for your first ever asset, if you've got, $1 million of borrowing or 1.5 of borrowing, you could be a bit more strategic with it. So cool. Awesome.
100%. So just spend that extra 50 to 100 grand on the purchase price, not in deposit. On the purchase price can get you a long way. So just spend that little bit more if you're someone that's young, you listen to this, when I say young, 20, 30, 40, even 50, you've got time. So just don't rush into it and go, no, I just want cheap. Because everyone wants cheap because they feel like they're getting a bargain, but it's cheap for a reason, especially today. Markets change a lot. The 300 grand that was, very achievable back in 2020, 2021, even 2022, and maybe possibly 2023, that there now, the new norm is like 500-600K.
Yep.
Okay. And it's only going to get more expensive as time goes on. And that purchase price is going to get higher and higher. Okay?
Yeah. In 5 years' time, when we do a similar podcast, we'll be saying the 500 is now the 1.1, the 1.2.
Correct.
For sure.
Yeah.
Just off inflation alone. But okay, beautiful. I think that was awesome. I think that gave the viewer, to our clients, a very, very good understanding of where the actual market is at right now. And I think even just from a personal perspective, getting your thoughts on what you're going to be buying next is actually really helpful. So beautiful. I love it. And looking forward to seeing that next podcast.
And I think there's a podcast that we did not long ago in regards to the type of assets that we did.
Yes.
Like purchasing, a house versus units, townhouse, blocks of units, commercial, when to get into those type of properties. We're going to put it in the link, or maybe there's going to be something floating around here on the screen. If you're on YouTube, to click on that and actually listen to that podcast, because that's going to help determine what type of assets might suit you in your journey.
Yes. When
to get those properties, if it's after your second, your fifth, your 10th, or your 100th, whatever it may be, go back and listen to that as well.
And pairing those up will be good, because that kind of goes through every single different type of asset that at least we've bought, and even that's just out there, right? So pairing that up with this one will be perfect, but good point. I love it. Thank you very much. See you next week.